Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our second session of our Growing Wife and Mother Zoom support group. So thank you so much for coming. We have people joining us now from all over the United States and also in England. So welcome to our British friends. Shalom Aleichem. And I want to remind everyone about our format. Our format is going to be that we're going to start off every session with 15 minutes of discussion of your feelings, your feedback, your ideas, your thoughts, your challenges. Then I'll give a 15, 20-minute technique of how to handle challenging situations in marriage. And then we'll end off the last 15, 20 minutes with discussion of how we could perhaps apply that technique to life and see whether or not you could use it. So I want to begin this 15-minute session of our session 2 of our wives, the Growing Wife and Mother support group by reviewing our first session, for those of you who weren't here the first time. Our first session is based in the idea, as I expressed in my book, called Like Yourself and Stay Married. And here's a copy of the book. It's called Like Yourself and Stay Married: The Unlikely Key to Marriage Success. It is the unlikely key to marriage success because most people talk about communication skills, mutual respect, how to get along with a husband, how to fight fair, how to negotiate, how to mediate, how to deal with children, how to deal with in-laws. All of the things that we usually talk about in marriage success are about between the husband and the wife. I've discovered in my practice, in my psychology practice, that the main issue is with me, with myself being the husband or myself being the wife. Before we can talk about relationship with a spouse or children, you have to have a relationship with yourself. You have to know yourself. To thine own self be true. You have to know what your strengths are, what your kochos are, what your abilities are, and to, as the subplot of our program is, believe in yourself. The essence of believe in yourself is the two red words, be you. If you are yourself, if you are proud of yourself, if you value yourself, if you like yourself, then you can involve yourself in a relationship with a husband or a wife on the basis of mutual respect. But you first have to respect yourself. You first have to have self-esteem. And beyond self-esteem, you have to have a self. You have to have a sense of self, that I am a valuable person. I can engage in a relationship. And then when a husband criticizes or a child criticizes or something doesn't go well, you ground yourself in yourself. You don't react automatically with a knee-jerk reaction with, oh yeah, well, what about you? Rather, you center yourself. You ground yourself in yourself. Count to 5. And then respond. So it will not be a escalating response. Oh, you did that? Oh, what about me? What about you? Rather, ground yourself, go to your best self, go to your soul state, which we discussed last time and I'll review now. And then you can respond. So here is the review. The 3 parts of self, the 3 parts of ourselves are the mind, cognitive, emotional, the heart, feelings, and behavioral, our hands and our actions. So these are the three dimensions of self and liking myself. I have a mind, I have emotions, and I have actions. This corresponds to neshama, mind, ruach, spirit, actions, nefesh. If these three things are aligned in me and in you, if these things are grounded, my mind, my heart, and my actions are aligned in one straight line, then I can achieve equanimity. I can achieve inner peace. I can respond to my husband in a healthy way. So our job, before we interact and learn skills of communication skills and imago therapy and response therapy and communication skills and how to handle children, you have to learn yourself. So this is my unique approach. It's the unlikely key to marriage success is selfhood, mind, heart, actions. Last week, we talked about these three techniques. Mind, which is the awareness of yourself. That's the wheel of strength. So if you're going to write notes, then you draw a stick figure like this, a stick figure, mind, heart, and actions. Your mind, your emotions, your feelings, and your actions. And then next to each one, you write down a technique. In order to find out the value of your mind, write down the technique called wheel of strengths. You have to know your wheel of strengths. I'll show that to you in a moment. Next to the heart, write down soul state. Soul state is neshama state. How to get into an emotional state of calm. And the third technique we talked about last week is the physical state or the action state, the nefesh state, which is called circle of control. Circle of control. These three techniques, what are they? The first one is the wheel of strengths. So you draw a circle, a large circle on a page, and you label each section intellect, social skills, personality or midos, character, spirituality, contribution to family, and personal growth, personal accomplishments. So you label the outside of each section, make a big circle, divide it up into 6 sections, an X and a diagonal, down the middle, across, and diagonal, 6 sections, and then write down in each section what your strengths are. What are your intellectual strengths? And write down your strengths. I'm a problem solver, organized, I get the job done, common sense. Write down your strengths under intellect. Social skills. Write down your social skills. Reliable, trustworthy. A one-to-one person. Personality. Midos. I'm kind, compassionate, nurturing, creative, honest, resilient. Write down your spiritual strengths. What inspires you? Music, learning, chesed, family time, family outings. Family. What kind of family contributor are you? Are you a motivator, mediator, promoter, provider? What is your role in the family? And then personal growth. How are you growing? Working on my temper, working on my calmness, working on my simchas hachayim, working on my hopefulness, working on my not reacting in the moment. What are you working on? This is the wheel of strengths. 6 dimensions of self, 6 dimensions of personality, 6 mini self-concepts. You have a mind self-concept, a social self-concept, a personality self-concept, a spirituality self-concept, a family self-concept, and a growth self-concept. Many self-concepts. Together, they join together as one whole global self-image. Many self-concepts, how I interact with the world from my mind, my social interactions, my character, midos, my soul, spirituality, family interactions, and growth. Many self-concepts. Together, they make up a global sense of self, a global self-image. And if you look at all of these, you realize I have strengths to deal with whatever problem is being presented to me. The definition of self-esteem is I can handle this. That's what self-esteem means. I can handle this challenge. How do you know that? Well, when you write down your strengths, hey, I got the mind, social abilities, midos, the spirituality, family abilities, and I can do this. I'm not just whistling Dixie. I'm not just kidding myself. I'm not just fooling myself to think that, oh, I can handle it. It's not just words. Here are the facts. The facts on the ground are, look at my strengths. I am allowed to believe in myself because I can do this, because I have the strengths. If you ground yourself, if your husband says something to you, like, why aren't you ready? Why aren't you ready for the wedding? Why aren't you ready? Our natural reaction is, but stop pressuring me. You're never ready to go when I have to go somewhere. This is your friend's wedding. Why do I have to be ready? Instead of reacting in the moment, stop, count 5 seconds, breathe, remember your strengths and say, what are my strengths? How can I handle this? Intellect, social skills, midos, spirituality, family, accomplishments. Let's say that happened. Let's open the forum for a moment. What would you be able to draw upon on this wheel of strengths to answer that when your husband says, why aren't you ready? Anybody can come up, give us a response? What can you use on this wheel of strengths that we are now developing to answer your husband by saying, breathe in, access your wheel of strengths. What can you say in that moment to respond to an attack, to a criticism, to a negativity? Let's unmute ourselves and give us some response. Give me any kind of response you could use, which is not your usual response. Not your usual. Okay, it's hard to say in the moment. Yeah, it's hard to answer in the moment right now. Are we saying it's hard to answer in the moment, right this moment as we're speaking now, or in the moment when the husband is attacking? What do you mean, Natalie?
No, I mean that you can fill in that if you are the type of person who has self-esteem and confidence, which hopefully most people have some areas of that, maybe not in every area or the circle, but if you can fill that in when you have your time or whatever, but when it comes to the moment and it's heated and someone says something to you negative, your child or your husband, you can't always answer with a clear head because you're too emotionally involved, and that's when it gets heated, and you don't always have the wherewithal to take that breath, and that's the problem, I find.
Right. Very good. Excellent. So I'm going to suggest the following. Very good point. In the moment, it's a good theoretical idea to use your wheel of strengths, but in the moment when you're getting emotionally triggered, it's hard to access these wheel of strengths and to respond calmly, but rather you're getting frustrated and we respond in the moment. Therefore, 2 things. One is we have to learn to slow down. We do not have to respond in the moment. We have to train ourselves to go, neshama, we're going to access this, right? when a husband says something, or when my wife says something to me, and it goes both ways. When my wife says to me, why didn't you take out the garbage? The garbage is overflowing. What kind of husband are you? Right? So I feel here, this is the part of me which gets upset. The emotions, the heart. I feel hurt. Soon as that happens, the feeling of anger or hurt goes right into my legs, right into my body, and I feel like I have to defend myself by saying, well, what's the matter with you? Why can't you take out the garbage? Why don't you call one of the kids? Why are you picking on me? I go from my feelings right into my body, self-defense. So it goes from here, gravity pulls the feeling down into my body, and my body gets tense, and my jaw gets tense, and I go, why did I marry you? Right? This is ridiculous. Right? And I want to respond from here into my body. That's called, as you say, Natalie, heated. I get heated in the moment. What does that mean? My emotions get heated, and my emotions are connected to my body. It's called the body mind, right? The mind has an emotion. The perception of hurt has an emotion attached to it. Anger, pain, fear, hurt, damaged. I'm no good. I'm not good. I'm not valuable. That has a corresponding body reaction to that emotion. The body feels tense, hurt, weak, lethargic. I turn into a spring and I want to attack back. I want to defend myself. That's called the heat of the moment. Slowing down means breathing. Why breathing? Because breathing takes us from here up here. Breathing is neshima. The Hebrew word for breathing is neshima. Neshima is the same word as neshama. You cannot access your neshama, your soul, your true self, without breathing. So basically, the attack by the husband or the child, when the child is chutzpahdik, takes my breath away. I have no breath left. I'm like, that hurts. Ow. I have no breath. I become speechless because my body becomes a spring and I want to respond with anger or with response or defend myself. I have no breath. We have to train ourselves in this growing wife, the growing wife and mother. And by the way, I'm giving us the same chabura on Tuesday nights for men called The Better Husband. Every Tuesday night at 8:30, I run a program called The Better Husband, and I teach the husbands exactly the same thing, right? And that is breathe, go up here. When you go up here to the neshama by way of the neshima, the breath, then you have time and inclination to access this. Oh, well, how can I deal with this? What are my social skills? Intellect, spirituality, family man, accomplishments. If you don't breathe, there's no way to access my higher self. No way. So when we talk about believing in yourself, to thine own self be true, we're talking about gaining access to my higher self. It all depends on me. Doesn't matter what my husband says. Doesn't matter what my wife says. If I am able to access my higher self, then I'll access and I'll respond from my higher self, which is my soul state, my wheel of strengths. This takes practice. So the practice is make a copy of the Wheel of Strengths. Actually, I said last week, everyone should make 4 copies of the Wheel of Strengths. Fill it out. Make it out nice. Big wool circle, big circle. And if you write to me at yisroelroll gmail.com. I'll send you this copy. And you can print it. A beautiful little round wheel of strengths, and send it to you. You can print it off, make copies of it, and put it around your house. One copy by your computer, one copy in your car, one copy by your work computer, and one copy by your night table. Wherever you go, you remind yourself of your best self. And then you practice 3 times a day. You go, slow down, look at your wheel of strengths, remind yourself of your abilities, and then prepare an answer. Prepare an answer because you know it's coming. You know your husband or your child is going to say something that hurts you. How do I know that? It happens to me about 10 times a day. It's not a surprise. Let's not get shocked. I will send everybody who sends me an email, I'll send you a copy of the Wheel of Strengths. Let's not be shocked that you're going to be attacked or hurt or criticized. That's what happens in life. So when you prepare yourself, let's look at the Wheel of Strengths now. Imagine yourself, you're being criticized. You're too late. Why isn't dinner ready? Why didn't you take care of this bill? Why didn't you tell me your mother was coming for Shabbos? Well, I didn't know we're having a bar mitzvah tonight. Well, why aren't you ready? It's going to happen at least 5 times a day. What happens? We always react from here, from the heart. The heart goes into the body, gravity. I respond and I get tense and angry. Turns into an escalating argument. I have to break the cycle by going up here. Now let's open the unmute button. What strength can you use on your Wheel of Strengths to respond to a word of criticism from your husband? What do you have? Look at your Wheel of Strengths. What can you say? How can you respond to a criticism if you are in your calm, grounded, centered state? What will you say? What strength can you use and how would you respond? Anyone help me? Imagine yourself in your valued, calm, centered state. What would you say? Any thoughts?
I'd like to share a thought.
Please.
And I've actually used it during the week, and it's really, I feel like, saved me a lot of, like, maybe not arguments, but, just calmed me. That I feel like I have a lot of reserve of patience. Like I mentioned last week, I work with kids and I have unlimited patience when it comes to kids. And that is one of my strengths, but it's hard for me to apply it when it comes to my husband, which I have different expectations of behavior than with children. But that is one of my qualities or strengths that I would like for it to come more natural when dealing with my husband. So I stopped, I breathed, and I envisioned that Mita, and it was helpful for me to respond to him in a much more calm way. So to answer your question, I don't know specifically what I would say, but if I was more in control of my emotion, what would come out would sound a lot nicer than that immediate reaction.
Does that resonate with other people? What are your thoughts? Anyone else? That's a very beautiful thing, Devorah, that you're able to be in your own element, in your own self, and that allows you to respond from a better place. So does that resonate with other people? Any ideas? Any thoughts?
Hi, I'll just say something. I think then I guess if I would classify, I guess on the other side of it, the skill would be patience in that sense, but it might just be patience in a different situation.
So you can access your patience by going to this place. If your best midah is patience, or your best midah is compassion, or your best midah is kindness, but we are heated, you're not going to be able to access your best midah. And what happens afterwards when we lose it? We get angry with ourselves. Why did I lose it? Why did I react that way? And we feel guilty, and we beat ourselves up, and we say, why did I do that again? I promised myself I wouldn't do that. I'm working on myself. This is what is called working on myself. And what happens? I lose it again. Why? Because we're not aware of how our own system works. If we learn, as we're doing right now, how my own system works, oh, I get hurt, ow. My body reacts, ow. And I keep in this loop. The event happens, hurts me, react. Event happens, hurts me, get in pain, anger, fear, my body reacts. I'm in a loop. What I'm sharing with you now is to break the loop. How? Instead of going from here down into my body and reacting and saying angrily or defending myself, break the cycle, go anti-gravity. This is gravity. From here, my heart, into my body, gravity, defend. Anti-gravity is going up here. Anti-gravity means you have to take a breath, stop, relax, go up here, access your patience, kindness, chesed, intellect, social skills, communication skills. They all exist here in the wheel of strength, but you're not accessing them because the heat of the emotions goes right down to the body and you're not accessing this. How do you access this? Breath, breathe, nishima. Nishima takes time. 1 second. And it's not a breath of 2 seconds. It's a 5-second breath. Watch. Everyone try that. You fill your lungs and oxygen goes to the brain. It's a physiological phenomenon. Not only is it a spiritual phenomenon, but physiologically, I bring oxygen to the brain. When there's oxygen to the brain, I can respond with my head, not with my emotions. If we learn our own system, it's an amazing change, an amazing ability to change our responses by saying, I can access my higher self by breathing and accessing my higher self. Now, Devorah mentioned a moment ago that she imagined her best midah. That's the second technique. The second technique is the emotional technique. In our picture of our three-part self, in our picture, we just did the wheel of strengths, consciousness here. Now, when Devorah imagined her best midah, that's in the emotional state, in the heart. So emotionally, not only mentally and consciously and cognitively did she think about her wheel of strengths, but now she imagined her best midah, which is compassion. She deals with children in a gan, in a kindergarten every day, and she's compassionate to children. Why can't you access that with your husband and children? Because we get heated. We go from here down to here into our body, we'll react. But if we stop and go, I know I have these strengths. How can I access them? I go to my beautiful place. So how do you access that midah? Imagine the most beautiful place you've been to in your life. I go to Ein Gedi, the waterfall of Ein Gedi. And I just go there and I go, immediately it calms me down. And I react from there. I live there and I react from there. Why? Because Engedi to me is creativity. It has rocks, it has water, it has soft rocks, it has swirling water, it has a pool. To me, and the greenery, it looks to me like a creative scene. That represents my best midah, which is creativity. When I go to my Engedi self, I go, one second. The Engedi is me. I am creative. This is a picture of creativity. One second. Access my creativity. My creativity comes from God. My best midah is creativity. One second. Creativity. Hold on. Let me get it. So my kids were bothering me or bothering the house or going crazy. I said, how can I be creative now? One second. I put a towel over my arm, picked up a bottle of wine from the fridge, and said to the children, hello, oh, yeah, come, 2 tables for 2 then, right? Table for 2, come with this way. Right here then. We have our special boss, sea boss today, with a little sprinkle of pumpkin juice. And we also have a special beef burger, yeah? And the kids looked at me like, what? What's going on? I used my creativity, stopped their bothering me by changing it up, by going to my creative place, and I accessed my higher self. I was able to stop the problem. Instead of saying, will you kids start behaving yourself? What's the matter with you? Rather than reacting with anger, from my anger, my hurt, the kids are not listening to me. They're dissing me. They're chutzpahdik. And I get back in my body and I feel weak and angry and in pain. One second, breathe. Go to my, I know I'm creative. How do I get it? How do I access my creativity? Go to my beautiful place. One second. Engedi creativity. One second, I'm creative. Oh yeah. It opens up a neural pathway, an oxygen pathway to my brain that gives me access to my creativity. And I go, I know what to do. I'll change it up. I'll distract them with some restaurant, some French restaurant or British restaurant, and fake them out, and they change up. So what is your beautiful place? And I'll show you what the correlation is between your beautiful place and your best midah. Can anyone tell me, what is your most beautiful, uplifting, inspiring, relaxing place for you in the world? It has to be a place in nature that you've been to. I don't really want to focus on spiritual places like the Kosel, but tell me a place in nature. So, or as someone just wrote me, being with my grandson, a new baby grandson, right? When you hold your grandson, what does it feel like to you? What does that represent in you, Natalie? What does that represent in you? When you hold your grandson and you look at him and you hold that warmth and you feel like, what does that mean?
It's like everyone told me about it before it happened, but till it happens to you, you don't really understand. For me, it was like another level of love that I'd never felt before. It's a different love.
Wow. What kind of love is that?
Uncomplicated, pure, simple, the best.
Wow. Wow. So it's unconditional love. Because oftentimes with our own children or husband or wife, we live in the level of conditional love. I'll do this for you, you do this for me. I'll cook, you'll provide. I'll provide, you'll cook, you'll do the laundry. You know, it'll be a quid pro quo, a back and forth, give and take relationship. But giving to a grandchild, holding the grandchild and just looking to their eyes without any complication, there's no conditional love. It's all unconditional. It's pure giving. It's a higher level. And to add to that, it's a taste of immortality. When you hold a grandchild, you see grandchildren, it's much deeper because you're realizing that you are going to live on in this grandchild and his children. So that love is a deeper existential, philosophical love that I know I'm going to live forever through this child. That takes me to a new level of satisfaction in life. It takes away the fear of death. So it's a very high level of appreciation for being alive. So it's either a place you've been to, or as you just said, Natalie, an event, a moment, a graduation from high school, graduation from college, your wedding day, a birth of a child, birth of a grandchild, walking with your husband on the beach in Miami, right? A moment of love. Go to your place. How do you feel in that place? I feel, as you said, love, Natalie. Love is your best midah. When you go to hold your grandson in your mind, your husband says, why aren't you ready on time? Why is the house a mess? Go to your beautiful place. Go to your holding your grandson. Imagine it. Breathe in. Hold your grandson. That represents your midah of love, compassion, giving, connection. I'm a connector. I'm love. From that place, now answer your husband. What would you say in that place? Holding it in your mind, holding your grandson, feeling that love, accessing your best midah of love. What would you say to your husband when he says, why aren't you ready? What would you say? Go to that place, then answer. What would you say?
It's not on the tip of my tongue, I'm afraid.
Okay. What would you
Try.
say?
I'm not going to make
Anyone
fun of
else? What would you say? What would anyone else say?
I think that if I was really at that place of calmness and connecting to Hashem and to my mitos that I want to be, that high level, I could just answer in a calm way and say, can you give me 5 more minutes? Or I know that you're in a rush. I really appreciate you being so patient with me. Like, just non-confrontational and envisioning how I want to say it or the place I want to be before I even say it, with all the breathing and connecting. I think whatever I say will just come out respectful and nice and communicative, and just even like he would like feel like he's doing me a favor, like, trying to not manipulate the situation, but making it feel like, oh, like his response would be, sure, I'll wait for you. Like, like just coming to him in a place of pure calmness and saying, wow, thanks for, I see that it's hard for you to be patient, but I'll be ready in a few minutes. Can you give me a few more minutes? And I cannot imagine my husband answering in an antagonistic way if I presented it that way.
Beautiful, beautiful, Torah. That's exactly the point. The point is that when you access your highest self, your true self, your grounded self, your centered self, your valuable self, your believe in yourself self, then what happens is you can't make a mistake. When you're aligned with that highest midah, and this is what I mean by a relationship with God. When you're aware of your compassionate self comes from Hashem. That's your best midah. At that moment, when you're aligned with God, when you're conscious of God, which means when you're conscious of your best midah that God breathed into you, breath, you cannot make a mistake. Not possible. Because you are expressing God's midah. So when you're conscious, you're up here and you access it, you're aware of your compassion, your kindness, your chesed, your mediation, your validation of people, as you do in the Gan, and you go, breathe, I know it. How do I access it? Go to holding my grandson, go to the beach. And the beach, if you think about the beach, the water represents flow, giving. We go to the beach oftentimes in our mind because water represents chesed. The water flows, it gives to the shoreline, a wave and another wave and another wave and another wave. When you go to the beach represents your warmth, your nurturing, your waves, your giving, your flow. That's why we go to the beach. That's why we love the beach. The beach represents the flowing nature of self. the nurturing level of self. That's why we love the beach. It wakes up within ourselves our highest attribute of compassion, nurturing, sensitivity, flowing, chesed, giving, empathy. Listen to the waves. The waves go. That's flowing. That's love. That's sensitivity. That's nurturing. When you go to the waves, you go, of course, dear. You know, you're right. I should be ready. I'll try to give me a few minutes and I'll get there. So some of you have to leave now. That's okay. Please do listen to the recording later. It's going to be recorded and put up online. So you can listen to the recording, the rest of it later on, Natalie, and I'll send you later on the Wheel of Strengths. But thanks for joining us from London.
Thank you very much.
So this is the access of your higher self. If a person goes to a mountain, if your best place is a mountain or a landscape or a view over a valley, that represents strength, vision, creativity, power, dynamic, outgoing, strong will, koach. So if you go to that place, it represents your highest self of vision, creativity, leadership, power. When you go to that place, how can I lead in this situation? You go to the mountain, you go, I feel strong. How can I lead here? What would your response be if you are a leader? If you go to the mountain or the Grand Canyon or Niagara Falls, which is strong water, what would your response be if your husband says, let's say your husband is not a good communicator, for example. Let's say he's just a very good provider. He's someone who learns a lot. He's a Talmid Chacham. He davens nicely. He's a solid person, but he's not a very outgoing, demonstrative, verbal kind of guy. And you want to be supported by him, let's say. Let's say you want to be supported by him. Let's say you want to get emotional support and connection, but he doesn't give that. So your natural reaction is, ow, that hurts. I'm not getting emotional support. It goes down into my body and I feel so frustrated and angry, right? Breathe. Access your compassion and self up here. Either it's your beach self, your waterfall self, which is creativity, or your mountain self, your vision. If you go to the vision self, if you are a person of strength and conviction and vision and creativity, what would you do to respond to a husband who is not supportive or doesn't know how to be supportive and you feel lonely? What would you do? What would be the response there if you were that type of person? Imagine going into your soul state. I am creative. I am visionary. I have good ideas. I am outgoing. I'm a strong person. I have strong convictions. A little different person than the person who's soft, edel, sweet, zisa, compassionate, different kind of personality. How would you respond to a husband who you would like him to be emotionally supportive, but he doesn't have that skill? He's just not that kind of person. What would you how would you respond to that? How would you, when you go to your visionary, creative, powerful conviction, leadership self, well, how would you respond to that? Anybody? I see the Grand Canyon, the vision, and I say to myself, what would you say? If I was creative, I would say, and visionary, I'd say, look, my husband has lots of talents. My wife has lots of talents. This is not one of her strengths. This is not his best strength. I am going to get my intellectual, my emotional support from my sister or my best friend or my Rebbitzin or Shiurim. And I'm going to value and look at the good in my husband for what he is. And I'll find the other emotional support somewhere else from my sister, my best friend, from Shiurim, and I'll love my husband for what he is, or my wife for what she is. I'll look at the package and say, he doesn't have this, she doesn't have this, but she has everything else. That's a way in which you can respond that way. The third technique we talked about last week is the body technique. The body or nefesh technique is here. The behavioral technique, hands and feet. So we have the emotion, the mind technique, which is the wheel of strengths, the heart technique called the soul state. Go to your beautiful place, your best mida, and feel it, experience it, and respond from there. And now we have the last technique is the behavioral technique, hands and feet. What is that? That's called the circle of control. That technique is I draw a circle, and outside the circle, I write down the things I cannot control. One of the things you cannot control is your husband. In my case, my wife. I cannot control my wife, her reactions, how fast she goes, whether she's going to get ready on time, whether she's going to be supportive, or I can't control my kids' words or verbal actions. And someone is saying to me, it doesn't fly. Someone explain that to me? What doesn't fly? Someone wrote me a chat saying, nice to say that, something, but it doesn't fly. Tell me what we're, explain that to me. Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Doesn't fly when a husband doesn't respond properly and you can't say, I'll accept the package. Well, so I'm going back to that point, that when a husband is not supportive and you want a husband to be supportive, it doesn't fly. I get it, because you're frustrated because you want to get emotional support, and that's what marriage is all about. And you're not getting emotional support from your husband, an emotional conversation, and therefore it gets frustrating. So the response to that is it doesn't fly because yes, it's frustrating. I get that. It's frustrating. But you have to be able to look at the package of the spouse and say, they have this, but they don't have that. Why is it that we cannot look at the positives of the spouse and say, alis be'enim nishbakenim? All in one is not possible. You can't have all the milas in one person. We like to have all the milas, all the goodness in one person, but we don't find that. And therefore, we have to accept what's good about my husband and understand that he doesn't have this, but I accept him for who he is, and I'll love him for who he is. And if I can put on the glasses and wear them this way, upside down, and go, I'm going to focus and look at the good. Right now, when I focus regularly, I say, oh, I see all the bad. Ooh, that's no good. I don't like that. But if I focus and look at things a different way and say, oh, I see the good, and I'm going to disregard the bad, and I look at the package deal, then I think it's a technique that can be tried. Lastly, the circle of control is I write down things that I cannot control. I cannot control my husband. I cannot control my children. I cannot control my daughter-in-law. I cannot control the weather. I cannot control COVID. I cannot control the rain. That goes outside the circle of control. Write that down outside the circle. And then if I think about this, the circle of control and what's outside my circle, what do I usually worry about? What do I get angry about or frustrated about? I get angry and frustrated over everything outside the circle. What my kids said, what my son said, what my father-in-law said, what my husband said, what my wife said. The weather is messing up my plans. The COVID is messing me up. All the things outside my circle of control are getting me angry. What happens? I get upset, down into my body, gravity. I'm in the loop again. Upset, Event happens, upset, angry, frustrated, hurt, depressed, sad, down into my body, from my emotions to my body. Our goal in our program of the growing wife is to grow by saying, I'm going to go against gravity up here and go, breathe, access my strengths, emotionally access my strengths by going to my beautiful place and reacting from my emotionally calm self. And lastly, behaviorally, the circle of control. I cannot control my husband's words or my daughter not helping out around the kitchen, or not. I asked her so many times to help out, but she doesn't help. And I get upset and frank and angry. She is outside my control. Her actions are outside my control, outside the circle of control. So now, what goes inside the circle of control? Can anyone tell me what goes inside the circle of control? What can I control?
My reactions.
My reactions. The only thing you can control is your reactions to your daughter not helping. Now, superimpose upon the center of the circle of control your best wheel of strengths. So in the circle of control, you take your wheel of strengths and you superimpose your wheel of strengths, this wheel of strengths, and you put this circle, in the circle of control in the center, and say, I can control my reactions because I can access my intellect, my social skills, my personality, my spirituality, my family contribution, and my accomplishments. I know what I can do because that circle really goes inside the center of my circle of control. I can respond from my center, my reactions, access them intellectually and emotionally by going to my beautiful place. And what would I respond to a daughter who doesn't help? If I'm accessing my best place, accessing my wheel of strengths, both consciously, as I know I have strengths, compassion, giving, creativity, resilience, kindness, nurturing, teaching, and I feel it by going to my beautiful beach self. What would I say to my daughter who's not helping? By controlling my own reaction, what would I say to her? Anybody? What would I say to her if I'm in my best place? How do I react to something which is frustrating if I'm in my best place? Any thoughts? What would I say to a frustrating daughter or husband if I go to my reaction place inside my circle of control and say, I can handle this?
I think ultimately they don't want to feel like it's me against them, or specifically, like I have a daughter that you've described. So from my best place, I would probably empathize with her. And it's a struggle for me to do this, but to say, wow, you must have been so overwhelmed or tired that you couldn't clean up after yourself. Maybe next time you can try a little bit to help out. I don't know, just like more of like an empathetic point of view so that she won't feel like I'm going against her.
Right. That's very good, Deborah. I would just add one thing, that is, don't give a solution. When you are responding from your best place, just be empathic without offering a solution like next time you'll help out. Just say, I guess you're upset right now, or you're tired, or you're exhausted from school, etc. You couldn't help out. I understand that.
Do you think it's me just trying to be in control by offering that advice? I think that's what it is. Yeah.
Yes, you're trying to control. You're trying to fix the situation. When you're trying to be empathic, don't fix anything. Just share empathy. And in our next session, next Sunday, God willing, I'm going to go through an exercise of how to show emotional support. There's a technique, there's a scientific method of how we could be emotionally supportive of our husband, our children. Women, we all know this as women intuitively about how to be emotionally supportive. Husbands don't know it at all. I had to learn it after 25 years of marriage. I figured it out. I read a book about emotional support and I learned it. and I taught and I learned it, and now I teach it. But as a husband, I did not know what emotional support is. And that's why I'm running a husband support group called The Better Husband on Tuesday nights at 7:30. Please ask your husbands to join, which teaches people how to access their emotionally supportive abilities and natural tendency to be empathic. But don't offer solutions. Just be empathic. That builds trust. And by itself, she'll want to help later on that day or the next day. She'll want to help by herself when she feels understood, appreciated, valued. Then it has to come from her. So these are the 3 techniques. Let's conclude our session by opening the floor and saying, and I've heard from feedback today from a number of you saying, yes, you've tried it. And today was an elaboration of session number 1. We talked about it in more detail and more application. But I want everyone to try it this week. And that is to know thyself. Believe in yourself. Believe in yourself. Be you by being aware of your wheel of strengths, emotional state, circle of control, alignment. And when your mind and your heart and your actions are aligned, then you are aligned with God. You're godly. You are accessing your highest state. In that place, your reactions will be much more in line with your highest self, your best answer, your empathic, compassionate, nurturing, connecting self. And some of you have said to me today that you've tried it and it worked. So this takes practice. So I want you to practice this. So not only do I want you to take 4 copies of the Wheel of Strengths and put it around your house to remind yourself of your strengths, and I want you to add to them when you discover a new strength, a new social skill, add it to the list. A new character trait, add it. Spirituality, add it. Family strength, add it to your circle of your Wheel of Strengths. And then this week, I want everyone twice a day to go to your beautiful place. Practice going to your beautiful place when you are not challenged, when you are not criticized, when you are not judged. Just twice a day. I go there during Shachris and Mincha. In Shachris, before I start Shemona Esrei, I just go to Ein Gedi. I see the beautiful place. I realize Ein Gedi is my best place, which is creativity. And then I bring it down. I go like this, Baruch. I bring down Ein Gedi. I bring down my creative self. Ein Gedi is my creative self. The beach could be your compassionate self. When you daven Shemona Esrei, go Baruch. I bring it down. I'm humbled by having this trait of creativity or compassion or nurturing. I have it within me. Ata, thank you, Hashem, for giving me my best midah. Hashem, rise. Allow me to serve you with this midah today. So I do this in Shachris and Mincha. When I'm strong enough, I do it in Marav as well, but Marav I get tired, so I just do regular Marav. But when I practice going to my beautiful place every day, Shachris, Mincha, and sometimes Marav, and you can do it in the Shema, you can right before you say the Shema, right before Aleinu, before Brachos. Practice going to this beautiful place, which represents your highest midah, your highest attribute, which represents your highest symbolic attribute. And in that way, you can get there when you are challenged. Only when you practice going to this beautiful place twice a day will you be able to go to the beautiful place when your husband is challenging you. This takes practice. And then you'll be able to remember your circle of control and say, oh yeah, it's my husband's outside my control. His behavior is outside my control. 1 second. Breathe. Access your highest self by going to your beautiful place. And then respond from there. This takes practice. I'm sharing with you a system of personal growth, a system of becoming in touch with ourselves. This applies to men, applies to women, same thing. I'm just talking to women right now. I'll say the same thing to the men on Tuesday night, right? And I'm saying it to myself as well. I have to practice going to my beautiful place, because in the moment, as Natalie mentioned earlier, I get very heated. Gets very heated. Very, very emotionally activated, animated. Hard to do it. Takes practice. This is a lifestyle change. Takes practice. If we're committed to it, it will work. Any comments or thoughts, ladies, on this idea? Can you give it a shot this week and try it, and give us some feedback next week, next Sunday morning at 10 a.m. So every Sunday morning, we're going to have this group. Every Sunday morning. Please do join us. And 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. on Sunday mornings, Eastern Standard Time, which would be 4 p.m. in London. And please send some friends along and have them join us. And are there any comments or thoughts or questions? And you can write me at yisroelroll@gmail.com. Let me know questions or thoughts. And this will be on our Zoom, yisroelroll Zoom YouTube channel later today. So I wish everyone a good day. Hatzlacha. Hope you can use this system. And please let us know next week how it worked out. Chazak ve'amatz.